guess that we have the great honor of being able to introduce the Bradys, although I do agree there's no introduction that's really necessary.
Nope.
Everybody knows Jerry and Paula to be steadfast, faithful, just definitely examples of people that can persevere through the things that life throws our way. Different in each one of our circumstances, but they definitely have seen their share of challenges, and they are remain faithful. And, they are loved and respected, probably among the most of anybody in the Worcester Church. I know Jerry is the elder candidate, and deservingly so. And I think, I'm excited to hear from them. And I think Maria wants to say a few words as well about their amazing family. I'm just guessing.
Well, they do have an amazing family. I think everybody knows they have Rachel and Jesse, who are married, and they both have children. So they're grandparents as well. And I just think that I don't know. I feel like every time I'm around the Bradys, I just feel really loved.
Yeah.
Really loved and cared about. And I feel like that's such a great quality, and it just comes from them. It's not put on. It's just who they are. They just love deeply. I feel like they love God deeply. They love their family deeply. They love God's church really deeply. And I mean, obviously, and evident, because in their retirement years here, they're choosing to really give a lot of their time to the church. And I feel like they're just great examples and great friends. And I appreciate them. I appreciate their love, and I appreciate their friendship, and just walking through this time of life. We're in a similar time of life, so I appreciate them in so many ways. So thank you so much for being here tonight, and we're all just ready to sit at your feet and listen. So thank you for all your efforts and being here too.
All right, let's hear it for the Brady.
Hey, Paula! Yay!
Well, thank you for such a great introduction, Steve and Maria.
Sweet.
Awesome. So we were asked to do a lesson on communication and intimacy. I just kind of wanted to throw it out to you. What comes to mind when you think of intimacy?
Okay, I'll say it. Sex.
Wow, I can't believe you said that, Paul.
Whoa.
Just thought I'd clear the air here. Clear the air. I think with sex, close, intimacy, conversation is always good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say deep talks.
I heard one time like intimacy, and then it was broken down into words. Into me, see. Like how you speak to me, and I thought it was so like deep but real, like that, like when you feel so intimate with someone that they really see into you, who you are, like knowing you to your soul core.
Vulnerability.
I would say physical and emotional closeness, and it grows over time.
All right. Well, those are all good things. Typically most of us probably are like Paul. Paul just blurted it out. But I think when we think about intimacy, I know especially for men, sex comes to mind. And I'm sure with women, that's probably true also. But basically, when we think of sexual intercourse, we don't really, that's probably one of the most intimate things, at least physical acts that we can do, that two people can do. Over the last 38 years, we've come to realize that there are other forms of intimacy that we really need to consider. So we're really not going to focus on the sexual relationship so much tonight. We're going to focus on some other forms of intimacy. that don't involve sex. They can oftentimes lead to sex, but they, not directly about sex. And I think it's important if we want to have a healthy and romantic relationship. These are areas that we really need to work on. And I think probably all of us have worked on these to some degree, but I just want to, tonight I'd like to look at it and maybe take it a little bit higher, in the way that we've addressed these things. Early in our marriage, our focus was primarily on our physical attraction, the actual sexual relationship, and how to improve on understanding and meeting each other's physical needs. We got a lot of discipling in regards to frequency, and some that have been around for a while probably remember the 1-a-day challenge. That was back a ways.
Mm-hmm.
No, we missed that.
I thought that was evangelism, Jerry.
No, it actually it was in regards to sex. So so there was a lot of talk about the 1-a-day challenge, which, looking back on it, it's probably not always the most realistic thing, though there were some times where it could have been more frequent than that. And also we talked a lot about not denying one another, and having a plan. So if one had more of a desire, and wanted to have intercourse, and the other didn't, then the other would eventually, maybe like within the next day or so, they would bring it up. So it wasn't always just the same person asking. So so that was something that we got there was a lot of discipline in regards to that. And we always found sex was typically very satisfying for both of us, but we often failed to connect on deeper emotional levels. We found it hard oftentimes to be open and vulnerable with one another for fear of being judged by each other. And I think long-term happiness needs to go beyond chemistry in the bedroom. And tonight we're going to take a look at intimacy from an emotional, intellectual, experiential, and spiritual level. And if you have your Bibles, if you could turn to 1 Corinthians 13, I think it's a passage that we're all familiar with. Maybe you've already read this passage in this marriage series that you've done. Probably many of us have had this read at our weddings when we were married. And in starting in verse 4, it says, and I really want to apply this to these 4 areas of intimacy. Love is patient, love is kind, does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others, it's not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs, love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, it always trusts, it always hopes, and always perseveres, and love never fails. And I think in regards to opening ourselves up to each other, on an emotional level, on an intellectual level, on an experiential level, and on a spiritual level, I think we need to really put this into practice. We need to put patience into practice, kindness. We need to seek to honor each other. in our thoughts, not being self-seeking, delighting in the truth. I think we need to delight in the truth, in being able to be open on a deeper level. It says love always protects. There needs to be a sense of, when I share something, that that's going to be protected. That that we're going to rejoice in the truth, right? About ways that we feel, and in trusting our partner, with some of our deepest secrets, hoping and persevering, when maybe something is shared, or maybe we want to see, there's an area we want to see change in our spouse, but being able to hope and persevere in spite of change. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what we want to talk about in the context of this passage tonight. So Paul is going to share on emotional intimacy.
Mm-hmm. So the first part of this, the emotional intimacy, is just really having candid, authentic sharing of thoughts and feelings. It involves being able to tell each other your deepest fears and your dreams, your disappointments, as well as feeling seen and understood while you're sharing those things. Not necessarily disappointments, in each other, but just disappointments that you feel personally, Emotional intimacy means, both you and your spouse feel safe and comfortable with uninhibited expression around each other, just feeling a sense of a safe space, talking about and, cultivating conversation by each person, just being able to talk and not judge, not feel judged or not, feel like the other is going to say something while you're sharing and being vulnerable and really opening yourself up, and just confiding in each other, just like you would. I think for sometimes it's hard for men to do that. For women, I think we have a little easier time to be that way with other women. I think sometimes it's hard for men to express their emotions, but for us to be able to just confide in each other and trust each other and sharing these just intimate things, and not feel like we are embarrassed or that we're going to embarrass the other person with our response. So I think praying and just being able to listen and not, I think tell our face that we have this like shock, like, oh, what, but just to embrace this time that, your husband is sharing something or your wife is sharing something that is so difficult to share and being vulnerable, but not embarrass or belittle, just or diminish what you're sharing, that it's, stupid or not important, but just that we're opening up. And I think Jerry and I have really grown in this area. I think the more, I think since we've been retired, we've spent a lot more time together and able to just have more depth in this area. And we share, when we talk, we share about what we want in our marriage relationship. We've been married for 38 years, but we're a work in progress. And so we're always sharing about what we want to grow in, what's scary for us to talk about, and just be vulnerable in areas are, it's still, challenging just to talk about our sexual desires, our personal body insecurities, like I feel like, don't we all have those? And it's so hard to, I think sometimes we feel that way in ourselves, but it's hard to talk about it with your spouse sometimes, and for them to understand what we feel, as what I know it's not just women that feel that way, because Jerry, and I both communicate that. And I've talked to other couples that have similar challenges with that. But just to be able to openly talk about that and not have any boundaries, and just to feel the freedom to express, to confide in one another, to offer emotional support, to reassure each other, I love you and your aging body, and and your health issues, and whatever your imperfections, and we do that with each other. And I feel like we're just kind of growing and listening and accepting each other, and we're emerging from these conversations feeling closer and more emotionally connected than we ever have been before. And so it's just this progression in I think the stage in our life that we're just growing more and more comfortable talking about these things. But it's practice. It's not easy. I don't want to say it's like just totally comfortable to start talking about these, but it's just we're trying to put it into practice and making it happen and being more consistent at it. So we both feel, when we're talking, we feel safe and protected. And I feel like this also, which you can tell me if you, or tell them, because you've already told me, but that this will increase your emotional intimacy by engaging in these deeper introspective conversations together, taking the time to talk about your emotions and experiences, things that you don't share with other people, and I think even through COVID, it has allowed us a lot more time to talk and, spend time connecting and talking about more deeper things, and just asking thoughtful questions and being curious about the way that each other thinks. That has really, really helped, and just not being superficial, so those are, some areas just with emotional intimacy that has really helped in our marriage. Okay. Mm-hmm. So Jerry's going to share about the intellectual intimacy.
But I think with the emotional, it just, I think we all have things that are, emotional things feelings that we have that we're afraid to bring up, because we either fear that it's going to be conflict in bringing something up. Maybe it's something we just don't like about our relationship, or maybe, whatever it is. Maybe it's when one of us says something and it makes us kind of, it pushes our button. Maybe it makes us go to a bad place. And those are the kinds of things I think that we need to feel free to talk about. And, like it says in, I wish we could mute, but we can't. But putting again, that passage of scripture in Corinthians, 1 Corinthians 13, about, being patient with one another, being kind, and, not dishonoring, someone else's, what your spouse is feeling, not, honoring that, and rejoicing in the truth that they're trying to tell you, maybe, or at least what they're feeling is truth, and protecting and trusting them, and hoping and persevering in that relationship, and so I think that's really important, to have those kind of discussions on a much deeper level than oftentimes maybe we don't make the time or don't feel comfortable going to those areas. But I think it's such a key area that we need to focus on. Another form of intimacy here is intellectual intimacy, and that's being comfortable communicating your viewpoints, without worrying about potential conflicts. Feeling the freedom to express your values, your opinions, not feeling pressure to agree, but feeling that your spouse hears what you have to say, and you feel closer to the person who cares for your independent or differences and respects your voice. And some of the examples for us have been having where I was self-employed as a small businessman. Oftentimes, Paula was involved in the business in different aspects, and oftentimes we would have differences of opinions, and I would say I feel like we need to do this or that, and Paula would maybe have an opposing decision or opposing opinion, and it was important for me to be able to listen to her side of it. We've built we built 5 houses together, and anybody that's either gone through a renovation or any aspect of building understands that there's a lot of decisions to be made, and you don't always agree on all the decisions. I've come to learn over many years that Paul is much better with paint colors than I am. So respecting each other's ideas, it's I find that to be it's an intimacy that that we need to work on in our marriages. Another thing, like reading, maybe reading or studying out certain topics. Another thing would be even exercising together. Paula has her ideas about exercise. I have my ideas about exercise, and some of our things that we do together, walking or hiking. But we both enjoy exercise. But Paula has certain things that really work for her that I'm really not interested in. But I respect what she does. Right?
Yep.
You want to add to that?
No, I think just feeling the freedom to express and not always feel like you have to agree with what your spouse, the way that your spouse thinks, and that we can still have unity and peace and be emotionally connected. Because I think sometimes if you feel shut down and you feel like you have to think, and I'm not talking about as far as opinions on as far as scriptures, I'm not saying like compromising in areas like that. I'm talking about just different values or opinions that you have in things that aren't salvation issues, should I say, but just that you can respect and appreciate that we're different and that we can still really be emotionally connected and not have to think the same and not always have to agree. The other area that we were talking about was experiential intimacy, experiences in your marriage, that lead to memories that build and intensify a connection that you have. And so, that's the act of teamwork and, moving in unison towards a common goal while creating an experience that establishes this feeling of closeness together. And so we do that by, working on projects together. We have done that by, we have a lot of family health issues in our, particularly in Jerry's side of the family, has a lot of severe obesity, and he's lost 2 siblings to cancer, and he had a 3rd sibling that had cancer. So we've had to be really careful as far as, health, exercise, diet, just because it's a genetic thing. It's on both sides of our family, and just doing that together has really helped us to kind of have this emotional connection, and having, trying to do a healthy eating plan together, just focusing on confidence, in doing projects together, just having the same goal. And I think Jerry mentioned we've done a lot of like remodeling and, work projects for him with like building houses for the business, and just doing that together and teamwork, and that has created a lot of, memories, and just helped us to work together, and be on the same page emotionally, and, appreciate each other's points of views. We also, as of lately with COVID, being really stuck at home, we kind of took on cooking together. Jerry, I was always the one that did all the cooking all the time, but Jerry started to show an interest and wanted to learn. And so he has become this fantastic pizza dough making person. So we do homemade pizza night every week, and he will occasionally make homemade pies with me. He loves to do the dough. He's really into that, and cutting up toppings, and just doing those things together has kind of just helped us to kind of connect in a different way that we have not done in the past. And so we look forward to that. It's like, Friday night is pizza night, let's, and do this together. And it's helped us because it wasn't, something that we've always done before. Just doing projects together, like a cleaning project or something, just different responsibilities, but that we do together to, with a common goal, but also discipling other couples, younger married couples. We do that together. We work together and talk about how we can help them with their kids. And it's just something that we both, just are very passionate about, and where we work together as a team to help people. And so I feel like God has really blessed us with that, as far as just sharing something that, these experiences that help us, and, also, draw closer together. And we don't have to collaborate on everything, but it's, it is crucial for you to have experiences in your marriage that you share together, because that does, promote, this intimacy of a connection. And it's not, there's so many couples, that we talk to that just, they're roommates now, when their kids, once your little kids are gone and they don't need you, they just kind of separate, and their relationships are so superficial. And so this is just kind of working on building this emotional, physical, experiential intimacy that you need to strengthen your marriage. Yep. And then you're going to do this last one.
Yeah, I think I feel like the true test of our marriage really has happened more since the children have left home, and certainly COVID, I think, has been a great test of our marriage. So it's been So I think we definitely need the experiences. But lastly, I want to talk a little bit about spiritual intimacy, which I think is probably, I would say, the most important. I think it's important that we see that that we're each the other's best hope for making it to heaven. I think that that we can help each other. We can build each other up spiritually. And this is sharing moments, like praying. We've done a lot of prayer walks. One thing I think COVID has done for us is gotten us more into going out and doing these like 4-mile prayer walks. And I feel like those are times where we really we really talk. We talk about spiritual things, and we just grow. I think we grow together in a much deeper way spiritually during those times. Even just watching the sunrise or the sunset together. Holding hands, enjoying nature, going on a hike together, just sitting outside and just enjoying our time together outside in the yard, and just using that time to talk and be vulnerable with each other. And I think it's helped both of us to deepen our understanding of our relationship with God. And like I said, I think it's important for us to have a close spiritual connection so that we can help each other get to heaven. I think it's something that we need to schedule times to do these things. Life is busy, but I think we need to take advantage of the moments, and let those moments do their work. So by learning to engage in open, truthful communication, as well as working to understand your spouse, you'll establish an intangible feeling of closeness that will ultimately strengthen your love life physically. So I think that as we build on these areas, on our emotional, our intellectual, our experiential, and our spiritual intimacy, I think it will enhance our sexual relationship. So I just want to open it up at this time for maybe any thoughts or comments or questions that anybody might have.
So I need to say something because I am just so overwhelmed, I think, by how rich and valuable this lesson has been. I think, Paula and Jerry, you have just done such a great job, I think, in your own relationship. So none of this teaching and sharing that you did tonight, to me, was anything out of the ordinary. I've seen that in you guys really working on those things. And I think you've been humble over the years to admit you've had challenges, but you've worked through them. And I just appreciate so much, just this topic that can be difficult to talk about, but you guys really presented it in such a great way. I really liked your point about teamwork spiritually. I think if we take some of this out of context, we could just like teach this to the world, some of this intimacy things. But what the world doesn't get is the spiritual part, right, of that intimacy. So I appreciate that. And I know for Paul and I over the years, that has really bonded us and kept us emotionally connected and intellectually connected by being spiritually connected, you know, and as disciples, that's really such a gift that I think, you know, for Paul and I, we took for granted for a long time. And have really over the years learned to appreciate that. But thank you for just the, you know, the time you took to put into this class. I think your delivery was excellent. Thank you so much for doing this. I feel enriched myself for this. So thanks. We love you guys. And I remember coming to Worcester for the first time on a Wednesday night. And we just moved here. Mara was 4. And I remember someone telling us that the Eners were going to disciple us, and I had no idea who anybody was. Never heard of the Bradys, and I thought for sure it was Paula because we made a connection in the fellowship, like just eyes. Kathy Ener, because I thought she's reaching out to Kathy Ener. And God put us together with the Eners, which was wonderful, and I appreciated them as a couple. But Paula, you and I have had such a connection over the years in the area as well with our kids, and we appreciate it. We love you. Thanks for coming tonight.
I love you guys.
Such a long trip through Zoom.
And I just realized something. We have 3 of what I would call world-class sister conversationalists on the same screen right now. We have my wife. We have Maria Fillier.
Yep.
And we have Paula Brady. So,
And there's many others on this screen as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you guys are in the big leagues. Like you're in the Hall of Fame, I think. But what I want to say is, what I wrote down some of the words that you mentioned: introspective, thoughtful, uninhibited, depth, freedom, vulnerable, safe, support, not superficial. More introspective conversation together. I love all those words because they're so hard to do sometimes, especially I think for me, I can be a real clamshell when it comes to, you know, intimacy. Just, I don't know if any of the other guys on this line feel like this. Sometimes intimacy, just the thought of it gives me, for lack of a better term, the heebie-jeebies. It's like, I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there. It's like a scary place for me, you know. And when I think of the Bradys, I think of you guys as like the why behind the why people. Like you're like, for me, it's like, okay, I get an answer. Okay, thank you. You're like, well, why? Jerry, I think you're definitely a why behind the why guy. And it's good for me to be around people like that because I think sometimes in my thinking, I can be superficial. I can be, especially with emotional things. It's like, okay, that's enough. Let me move on to something else, you know? So I really appreciate the depth of your analysis with this. I think it's very helpful. So thank you very much.
Amen.
I want to, the Bradys, I just want to thank you so much for being with us tonight. And you guys, I don't think you realize how inspirational your lives are. You know, and I don't know how many people on this class know you guys were some of the founding members of the Worcester Church from the very beginning, I think. And so you've lived this life, and yet this stage in your life is like, to me, the most inspirational because you're not done, you know. And I think sometimes there's a tendency to, you know, you live a dream and you live a certain life and you just kind of want to retire and coast. And I feel like you've accelerated so much more. And to me, that's inspiring, you know, because we've lived life, and, you know, we're also wanting for our second half of our life, by the grace of God, to be greater than the first, which the first part was just absolutely phenomenal. And your kids are a testimony of your great marriage. Both Rachel and Jesse, we have history with them, and Rachel is a giver. When I was going through a very difficult career transition, she was one of the first ones to reach out to me to say, I think you would be great for this job, and so where I was going through my, midlife transition, she was there. And Jesse, when he was in Worcester, being in the teens and all of that. And I look at how awesome they are, and that can't happen unless a couple has a great marriage. And so everything you talked about tonight, it was just a great reminder for me that there's layers to marriage. You can't have a one-dimensional marriage. You have to, look at Christ and keep building and keep growing. And so thank you so much. Love you guys a ton. And even your support when both of us were transitioning into a new life. And so love you. Thank you so much.